What's up, people? This is T Hoodie in Japan, back to give you another video. So this video is going to be shot at a later date than some of the other videos that I have scheduled to post on YouTube. Okay. As you probably know, we started talking. Oh, maybe we haven't yet, but there's a lot of food stuff that I had planned to put out first. But there is a topic that's been popping up recently, and I kind of want to get in the mix. Hopefully, it'll get me a little bit more views, maybe some more subscribers, and so on and so forth. So yeah. So we're gonna be talking about this topic, and then you're gonna get some other stuff later. That's gonna be stuff that I recorded in the past before I'm basically recording this now. Now, this is a topic that I wasn't. Well, let's put it this way. One of my topics was originally going to be talking about eikaiwa, since currently that's where I'm working at. I'm a teacher in the eikaiwa. If you don't know what an eikaiwa is, it's basically English conversation school. It's basically English school that that kids and stuff attend after school, usually for about an hour, and so on and so forth. Essentially kind of the same throughout the eikaiwas, but they do work differently depending on the company. So, but thing is, I'm really not here to talk about that. I really wasn't even sure if I was going to talk about eikaiwas as long as I was working in an eikaiwa, because I don't want to put anything. I don't want to put my job in jeopardy. I have kids, so I'm not really trying to lose my source of income. So, but there has been a little bit talk going on about Japan and its English proficiency. As some know, that Japanese has always been kind of pretty much at the bottom when it comes to how many Japanese are really good at English or not. And now it just came out that they're at an all-time low at like ranking at 92 out of all non-English native countries, which is very bad, very, very bad. So what I kind of want to talk about today is why that is, because I've been watching a lot of videos, and especially the ones when they're talking about interviews and stuff. I find that especially the interviews, Japanese giving their reason why doesn't really provide a good enough reason what their issue is. I mean, there is like obvious issues that they point out, like, you know, they basically mostly study for reading and writing, but they don't really speak it. But I believe there's a lot more to that, based off my experience as a English teacher and among other things. So I just want to talk about that, and because, yeah, like I said, the interviews don't give that much enlightenment. And honestly, a lot of Japanese interviews, a lot of the Japanese replies isn't really as articulate as, for say, a lot of other Asian countries that's being interviewed. Like, for example, Asian Boss. I always found that the Chinese give more profound and articulate responses to why a certain situation is what it is. And then I find Japanese to be at the probably the worst and most boring. And in my opinion, I feel it's because they're not really trying to insult anybody. Because as some of you may know, Japan is a country that's not about conflict. They don't really want conflict with people, so they kind of do their best to watch their words. So yeah, along with that, randomly, so this is something I didn't write any notes on anything, so I'm going at the top of the dome. So let's start with the most obvious. Which one struggle is that English and Japanese is two very different languages. Um, uh, different different means of pronunciation. As a matter of fact, um, Japanese have a very pretty simplistic pronunciation compared to English. So that's one thing. The order of sentences when we talk about grammar, like I spoke about this before, maybe I haven't, but like between the subject, the object, and the action, there are different orders between English and Japanese, which is something that both sides have to get used to. That when we talking about English trying to speak Japanese and Japanese trying to speak English, totally different ways of thinking. So you have to like retrain your mind with the idioms. Also, Japanese use a whole lot more onomatopoeias in their conversations compared to English, and so there's a whole bunch of differences between English and Japanese, but that's only one aspect, and honestly, it doesn't really hold too well when you have other Asian countries like Korea, which Korea is also very similar to Japanese in many ways, and South Korea basically has I don't know what their ranking is, but I could tell you that a lot of Korean English is pretty good. I don't know how they study English, but when I've been in Korea, and all top of that, having a few Korean friends, I could say that their English is pretty good. Now, is it fluent level? No, but it's good enough where they could have they could get by. If they went to America or UK or Australia or any other English country, they could get by. They could definitely get by with little struggle. So, yeah, let's move that out the way. So let's move to other things. What the issue is. This is what happens when you don't write any notes. But so one of the big problems I notice is it has to do, and this is going back to the education, and we already talked about how that they mostly focus on the writing and reading and very little on speaking, but it's more than that. Where you talk about Eikawa or any or high school classes, or I don't know about Jukus, how well they do it. I will have to ask about that later. I have a former coworker who retired from my company, moved to a Juku, but yeah, but I would probably think it's maybe only slight bit better. But anyway, for the majority of the schools, it's a lot. It's a lot more of a problem than just that, and even culturally speaking, for Japanese, it's a lot more big. It's a lot more bigger. So let's start with the problems with the schools. Um, I could definitely say this for Eikaiwas, that when you bringing these kids, little kids to school, it's less about teaching and more about entertaining. And what you notice is that you're basically being you're just being entertaining to keep them around. For a lot of a lot of schools, it's more about keeping the students in as opposed to properly teaching them English. And that basically goes for the whole time that a lot of these kids is there, but certainly more so when they're younger, because they want to be more entertained and so on and so forth. They want someone funny, and they want to do activities and so on and so forth. So what tends to happen is a lot of the time behavior could just go out the window, and no matter how bad that kid might be, and no matter how much they interrupt the class, the teachers, especially the Japanese teachers won't really tell their parents that they need to be disciplined and they're disrupting. If they do, they put it as nice. Well, they're supposed to be nice about it anyway, but it's the way they go about it is ineffective, and yeah, it really doesn't work out. I've seen this in situations where there have been bad kids, and you know, the Japanese teacher goes to play, well, this kid is so good, yeah. I'm like, no, this kid was just jumping up and down on the desk. That's not good. But yeah, so that's one thing that, like, for a lot of the schools, it's more about making money than actually teaching them English, unfortunately. So yeah, another issue is that a lot of these schools, and maybe maybe Eikai was too. I think my Eikai was a little better at it. I heard this is definitely a problem with when you go to high schools doing the ALT or the JET program, that for the most part the Japanese is running the English classes, while the actual native teacher is the assistant. And a lot of the times the Japanese teacher don't even know much English. They can't pronounce well. They can't do any heavy longer sentences. The way a lot of times the way they pronounce certain words is completely off. In any and not just an American accent or UK, in any accent, it's just totally off. There's still a lot of this, like in Japanese, they kind of mess up the pronunciation for some borrowed words. Like, for example, they would say, instead of saying cut, they would say katto or laito or something like that, because for some reason they can't end with a single just with a consonant. It has to have a vowel added to it, katto or something like that. But so a lot of the times, a lot of these a lot of students, they're in junior high school, and they're saying cutto or description or elevator instead of elevator, because it's just their way of pronunciation. And because in Japanese they have a lot of borrowed words, especially from English, I guess they're in the perception that it's okay to pronounce it that way when it's not. And it's honestly very confusing a lot of the times when they pronounce the words like that. So, but I kind of rambled off because it's more about the teachers. And yeah, that's a big problem, that you have Japanese teachers, being the primary teachers, and they're not fluent in English at all. At all. Like, it's kind of sadly rare if a teacher is fluently English, unfortunately. Another issue is and this is one of my biggest gripes about Japan and learning English. And this is not so much about the school. I feel like I'm missing something on the school, but if I remember, I'll get back to it later. But let's go outside of the school for a second, because this is a more cultural problem. And this is the fact that once they get to middle school, they have too much on their plate. They, especially once they get to middle school, and then that's when they're gonna start going to Juku, which is basically a type of cram school. You go to high school, and maybe even before that, you're gonna be doing club activities, or whether it be shogi or some kind of sport. You're like, honestly, like, there's no, like, kids in Japan, they don't get home, they don't arrive home until maybe 8, 9, even 10 o'clock almost every day, because they're so busy doing everything. Their parents want them to basically do everything. They want them to get a high score, and that's another thing about, because of the Juku, but I'll get to that in another story. They want them to go to school, then they want them to do extra learning in the Juku, and then they might have a piano class, and then they have a sports class, and then after that, then they want them to do English. And it's like, Jesus Christ, like, then there's no way they're gonna properly learn all this stuff. And as a matter of fact, it's going to end up being ineffective, because what's going to happen is that they're going to be met in everything, as opposed to if you just focus on one thing, that they'll be able to master. If you want your child to learn English, then have them go to English class more often. Forget the Juku. Forget these other clubs that they probably don't want to go to. If there's a club they want to go to, sure, let them go. They could multitask with 2 things, but 4 or 5 things, come on, that's just unrealistic. And then so what end up happening is that you have a lot of times that they come to, especially in the Aikawas, they come into class and they already tired. They're just like zombies staring at the teacher all the time. They don't want to participate. They don't want to try to think, no matter how engaging you are. And then here's another issue. And this is as they get older and older, get into junior high school and high school, you have it where they're there, but you're not really sure why they're there. And they just have this, you know, unspoken decision that they're just gonna sit there and stare at you. And then because this is such of a bully society, the ones that actually want to learn, they don't, because they're afraid that they're gonna be outcast. They're gonna get the stares, and then, you know, they're gonna get the silent treatment and basically cast off because they're standing out and showing that they want to learn English, and, you know, it makes them look bad, or maybe they feel like they're gonna be forced to try harder, and so on and so forth. So what ends up happening is that the few that actually want to learn English, they're not participating because too much peer pressure from the other students who's just sitting there quietly and doing nothing and staring. And that's especially so if you're a co-hire, or rather a junior as opposed to a senior student. And yeah, it's just, you know, it's just a mess all over, and I don't think it's really gonna be fixed. So yeah, that's how I feel like. And there are definitely like a few students that I've had that's amazing in English. Um, but there are others that, like I said, because of the situation they're in, whether they're too busy focusing on too many things, or the peer pressure from their classmates, or the overall ineffectiveness of the teaching, whether it be because they have a Japanese teacher who don't really know English, so therefore can't teach it, or maybe, you know, you might even have a bad native teacher who's really just there for the money. Because a lot of times, you know, there's a lot of native teachers who's just there for the money. So, you know, I'm just gonna hold their hand, and they're not gonna really learn anything. And so, and that happens a lot. So there's just so many situations, and I just think at the end of the day, because Japanese, especially in the Eikaiwas, find it more as a business than a goal for Japanese to actually learn English properly, I don't think it's gonna get better. I think that, in my opinion, a lot of Japanese don't really care about English. Not only that, based off from what I gather from my students, a lot of Japanese don't even want to travel abroad. A lot of Japanese don't even want to travel out their city. Like, I have questions in English like, where do you want to travel on your next vacation? They say, I want to stay at my house. Where do you want to live in 10 years in the future? Their own city. They want to stay in their city for the rest of their lives. Like, and we're not even talking about Tokyo. They could be in their own small little town or rural area. Nah, they're fine where they are. They don't want to move where they're from. They want to stay in their town for the rest of their lives. Now, as they grow, will that maybe change? It's possible, but the problem is that, you know, the parents is spending so much money to teach them English, especially at the Eikaiwas, and especially And I hope that's not a situation with the international schools, because a lot of international schools do teach a lot more English and have them and try to get them to speak more English. So I can't really say too much on international schools whether they are effective or not. I hope so. If not, then I don't even know what to say, but it doesn't even matter because those international schools are extremely expensive. Those are for the people with actual money. I don't care what anyone says. Those international schools are not for mixed children. They're not for foreigners. They're for rich Japanese kids, so their parents could gloat that, my son and daughter is in a prestige international school and they could speak English. Because at the end of the day, a lot of students with the goal, or rather the parents, with their students go and learn English, it's usually very shallow. Like, it's not about traveling to do something different. It's more about, you'll be able to get this position in this Japanese company where you could translate from English to Japanese or Japanese to English. And that's usually the sales pitch with a lot of these Eikaiwas and other English schools, that it's never really about traveling. It's more about any job opportunities in Japan. But the problem is that the schools could give you the tools, but at the end of the day, you have to practice it. And being in Japan, you're not going to really be able to practice it as well. So if you want to be good in English, the best course of action, especially after you graduate from high school, is go abroad to an English country where you could practice and master, your English. And then if you want to go back and get a position in Japan, okay, do so. But honestly speaking, and I don't understand why these parents don't figure out, you're not gonna spend years in an Eikaiwa, or even a lot of these English classes, and then you'll be able to be fluent in English and be able to get a translation gig. It's not realistic for most people. It's not realistic at all. But I don't know, man. They didn't pick that up, unfortunately. But I wish the best for them. And like I said, I know certain students who are serious about English, and they're doing their thing. So shout outs to those specific students. Is there anything else that I'm forgetting? No, not really. That's gonna be my rant. So yeah, we're gonna end it right there. I hope I gave a little bit more information that on why Japanese struggling with learning English. Yeah. So we're gonna end it right there because it's nighttime and I'm not thinking straight. I just went on do a ramble, especially since I have no notes. So, if you find this enlightening, entertaining, anything positive, like and subscribe. If you didn't, well, we try again next time. All right, take it easy, guys. T Hoodie in Japan. Out. Peace.